Yo, yo.
What's up?
Secret
What's
under
up?
secret
Yeah,
undercover show.
that's it. Confidential. Hey, it's as they said in what is it? The next Friday, top of the world, Craig. Top of the world security.
It depends on who's asking.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Joe, how you doing, brother?
Perfect, great. I'm kind of excited to make my intro to the LinkedIn community, get the name out there, talk a little bit about the DOT world, get to know others, learn from others. There's nobody that knows everything. I learn always from everyone. I'm a sponge, and I only do my job better when I'm able to learn from others. So I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to be a format in your show.
No, we appreciate you for being our confidential informant and agreeing to come on the show and spread your secrets to our wonderful audience about compliance and safety and DOT stuff. So all the thanks goes to you, my good friend.
I
Right.
appreciate that. Yeah, and I only talk uh, about what I do, the content that I spread on LinkedIn. Um, it's not because I know more than everybody. I have access to about 20, 30 other guys that can read the reg top to bottom, uh, every I dotted, every T crossed. Knowledge of the regulations is one thing. Applications of the regulations is another. And that's the challenge that I still have in an industry after 25 years doing this. I see how it's applied in 1,000 different ways that the folks on your side of the table never get to see because you weren't in my shoes. And we all learned something from each other. I'm not in your shoes in the world of brokering and moving freight, and just 1/10 of the knowledge that you guys have would make me more successful in what I do. So that's what we're here for, is to learn from each other.
Well,
Amen.
I appreciate that very much, and we hope, Joe, that this is the first of many, many, many appearances for you on our show. And of course, we will always use your code name, Joe, and we will always, always keep your face hidden. So you never have to worry about that, man. Which honestly, I love. I think I think that's just amazing, bro. That you're like secretive.
Wait, and it's not so much the secretive part. My LinkedIn profile says who I am and what I'm about. DOT CSA is actually compromised of a collective of 8 people now. We're bringing on a ninth person. We are sort of and I can't claim we're a nonprofit, but that's where we are at this point. We're not a money making entity. We're more of an education awareness entity. Every one of us is either in an industry where we have our own respective careers, our own respective businesses in law enforcement, former state, former federal, former motor carrier. One of our new group members is infamous for a company with the color of the rainbow that we all know about. So just to give you a hint to that direction. So, we're not a bunch of government guys. We're private industry people as well. And we're working towards a collective of bringing about awareness because there's just too much gosh darn misinformation in the world of transportation safety and compliance. And let me tell you, the straw that breaks the camel's back for me was being at a mom and pop motor carrier, 8 p.m. in a former DOT career, doing, being there sometimes looking at records. They allowed me to be there. It was part of a DOT work, DOT visit in a former career, and looking at the trials and tribulations that mom and pops go through because they just don't have the opportunity to navigate regulations aside from opening up a book. I mean, where do you start? What do you look at? How does one regulation connect to another? How does one regulation put you in a position that defends your program, or another regulation put you in a position that may get you to misinterpret something and get you into a situation where you're paying penalties? And are you knowingly doing something? Are you willfully doing something? Or are you doing something out of ignorance? I hate to say that, but everyone has heard the term, there is no ignorance of the law. When you get in front of a judge, we're all going to be told, there's no ignorance. You should have known. You could have known. You would have known if you did your homework. And that's the one thing with transportation safety. Drivers especially are the one area of my focus, because I can't count how many drivers I talk to and I ask them about the DOT regs, and they wouldn't know where to even start to tell me. The mentality is, I got a CDL and I know how to do a DVIR and I know how to do a logbook. And when I tell them, driver, do you know anything about safety management controls? Do you know about safety fitness determination? Do you know about 49 CFR Part 397 and insurance regulations? Do you understand how the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards and how the welds on a rear end bumper protection can put you in the red if you do a DVIR that requires you to check those areas? And 9 times out of 10, they don't know. And then they signed a little form saying they checked something and something happens, and that makes them accountable. And what's worse is when there's a fatality involved. So the way it works is the accountability part goes on the application of a CDL. Most folks don't understand that CDL, the application of that CDL implies that you're getting into the industry with the knowledge that you're going to know everything when the time comes. Same thing for motor carriers. Line 30, I believe, on the MCS 150 says, I hereby sign that I do know the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations and the hazardous material regulations. That's also the same for brokers and anyone that signs for that DOT number. And that's where everyone gets everybody. So I'm very passionate about people understanding this, because there's no rhyme or reason for a driver to have a DOT inspection and be lost because they think that the inspector knows more than they do. I believe that every CDL driver should have as much knowledge about the regulations that apply to that inspection process as much as the inspector, or even more than the inspector. And I got to tell you, let's be frank. You folks have been in and around drivers. You're drivers yourself. Do you folks think that that's a reality? I don't believe that it is. I mean, what can you tell me, Robert?
I mean, I agree with you honestly on pretty much everything you said. I mean, drivers, I hate to say, for a large part, they are, how to say this, they learn to the point that they feel they need to learn and understand something, and then they don't go any further. And I want to say that it really goes with like compliance and some safety stuff as far as rules. Not saying they're unsafe, but they don't understand the laws and the rules as explicitly as you do, and what the exact quotations are and the paragraphs and all these things, and what they really should and shouldn't be doing, like logs, logging properly, even on an ELD, is something, a lot of drivers still don't understand. How long do I do? What line do I put myself on when I'm doing this? What line do I put myself on when I'm doing that? So I'm with you. However, Joe, give me 1 minute.
Well, let me characterize one area. And that's the thing. It's taken me about 25 years to get to my level of knowledge. But the first thing is I'm not an attorney. Let's just put that aside. And I'm not the DOT, either state or federal. Those agencies they reserve the right to do things the way they do. But I've seen the way rules and regulations are applied. And the first thing is first, and this is a big misunderstanding. There's a pretty good LinkedIn person that everyone knows from the perspective of safety, with source content that came out to something to the effect, should the FMCSA be judge and jury? And I gotta say, that's just not the way regulations work, because regulations are not laws at all. There's a big separation between the applications of civil and criminal laws and commercial or administrative laws. And civil laws, criminal laws are normally covered under the purview of our constitutional rights for search and seizure, for probable cause, for the ability to be reviewed by our peers, to go in front of a judge, etc. When you look at commercial codes and regulatory rules of business practices or administrative laws, those are usually applied to industries where someone opts in. They agree to abide by the terms and conditions of the regulations set forth in those areas. There is no such thing as judge and jury and those types of parameters. There is no judge. There is no jury of peers. It is a regulatory set of parameters that a congressional agency is almost given full 100% executive power to interpret and apply. Now don't get me wrong. The Supreme Courts do chime in all the time, but that's one thing that drivers don't understand. DOT rules are not laws. The way laws are for speeding, the way laws are for being involved in a domestic abuse or DUI, DOT rules are rules. They're regulations, and many of them can be subject to interpretation, especially rules like cargo and load securement. There's load securement regulations that are highly interpretive, because if you look at 49 CFR 396, you look at 49 CFR 393 for load securement, it doesn't really tell you how to put a 4-inch strap over a Caterpillar. It just says you have to use a 4-inch strap with a certain working load limit, and you have to use 4 of them for every 5 feet or whatever, but it doesn't tell you how to do it. So if you look at those regulations, they're subject to interpretation, because at the point of the inspection, the DOT inspector can say, look, my interpretation is that you didn't do this properly, so now it's a violation. So folks that are in a position of driving, they need to understand these things, because many of these rules are subject to interpretation. So that's just one little the caveat I wanted to point forward.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That's very interesting, especially, like, they're there in regulation. They say you need to do it, but they won't tell you how to do it. So it's kind of up in the air.
It is. And you look at, I mean, those that drive a truck know this 1,000 times better than I can. Every load is different, and the government doesn't have the resources to identify how every single item or object in the world should be strapped down. Now, there's been some state and federal guides that have come out for cargo securement. Some states have put out a guide. The FMCSA has put out a guide. There's been references to a guide on how things are, but there's never been a standard guide that says this is how you do this in particular. And that's because the industry has a ton of safety devices for load securement, and the industry knows how to police itself in general in 1,000 ways better sometimes than the government can. But I'll give you another example of where a driver doesn't typically understand what the extent of their compliance requirements are.
Well, hey, Joe, Joe, real quick, not to cut you off.
Sure.
Real quick, we need to give a shout out to our sponsors.
Yes.
And then we need to introduce you. Obviously, we are going to dig into a plethora of very valuable information, classified top secret. But what's not top secret is the beautiful, beautiful services provided by Karen and King. Karen and King Insurance. I will say another mystery is what that song is saying.
Yeah, that is our third mystery, our second mystery for the night. What the hell does that song say? That is correct. Hey, and also we want to drive all of you carriers over to Trucking Service Solution. Their website scrolling at the bottom of the screen. You guys and girls out there on the road, you're looking for any kind of service, you know, rest area, truck scales, truck stop, washouts, all that kind of stuff. Go on there, type in your location, the radius, and what service you're looking for, and it'll populate some results for you and help you get done what you need to get done. Yay! Man, I love that guy Igor. I'm gonna have to have him back on the. We're gonna have to have him back on the show. Mr. Kyle Graves. When in doubt, strap it out. That's what I always. You
Got
are
a feeling
oh
Kyle
my
knows something about strapping it on.
no, Kyle. We don't. We're not. This is not that kind of show. Sure, this is a family show. All right, all right. Before we continue with our guest, he is so passionate. He just took over the damn show and said, "Screw your guys' format. This is my deal. You do what I want." So, before we do get back onto him, we're going to do our little news topic tonight. This is one I'm actually excited to really talk about. I love all the articles I do, but this one was one I was not expecting to read today. So. All right, all right. As you see right there, the DHL has decided that they are partnering with the Girl Scouts to help showcase careers in the supply chain. But the even cooler part about it is that part of this actually has to do with a new badge that the Girl Scouts of America are coming out with, and DHL is helping them roll that out. And it's a logistics patch. So just like the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, they have their sashes or whatever with all their patches and their achievements and stuff on them. So this is a new one that they're rolling out. The two entities they're working together to provide experts and knowledge to establish 4 different activities that the young ladies are going to need to complete to earn the badge. It is going to be piloted in 11 cities, starting here in about a month and going through 2024. They're going to use career days at specific DHL sites and, have people that work there that on in various positions come and run the young ladies through different activities and challenges and teach them about different parts of the supply chain. They say that their goal is to foster an interest in this young generation to get into the logistics sector by showing them end-to-end logistics operations and to get an understanding of how logistics touches everything. As well, they're hoping that this will further address the lack of female participation in our industry. And as y'all know, we've said on the show before, just in the driver realm, only 8% or a little less than 10%, I should say, of drivers are females. And I don't have any analytics for the rest of the industry, but I'm sure that it is probably a very small percentage as well. So they're really hoping that this will get young ladies involved in getting into logistics jobs. And I want to go down here to the bottom and read through what they're going to do to get the badge. So they have to do, like I said, a few different activities. One is mapping a product pathway. The idea that they've came up with is for them to create a supply chain map for graham crackers, which is an ingredient in s'mores. Which is something that we all enjoy, and Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts do when they go on camping. It's a big deal, huddle around the fire. They'll develop the process to flow to make s'mores and get it to the end user. And they'll also have to design an efficient delivery route. The young ladies will determine the most efficient path to deliver the items. For example, their annual Girl Scout cookies. That practice will take place in different methods and use measurable tools to determine the most efficient route. And they also have to do innovation. They'll learn about technology that DHL uses in their logistical operations and brainstorm together as a community on how to solve the issues by using the technology. Once the patch is launched, Girl Scouts will have to complete or will have completed all of those 4 activities to earn the badge. And that's pretty much it. So just wanted to shine some light on that. I think that's a really cool thing that our industry is taking an interest in this younger generation and, trying to get them more involved in these things. I remember when I was a driver, I actually did 2 career days at my son's school. So, went up there, took a truck. I was a reefer driver. So I, set the reefer to -20, man, and let those kids walk inside that trailer, and they loved it. And so many of them said that they were already thinking about being a truck driver. So I'm glad the rest of the industry is taking an interest in our young ones to, to continue to further foster interest into logistics. So there you go.
I'll tell you this much, man. It didn't take too long. The Girl Scouts posting up outside of the dispensaries. The interest in reefer has been there for a long time.
Dude, I remember seeing those news stories and people like talking crap about their parents allowing them to do that. And I'm like, man, those are the smartest damn for real, man. That's the smartest dang thing. Hey, let me tell you something. You say that, Kyle, but I made close to $100 grand a year as a truck driver. So,
ooh, Kyle Graves coming in hot.
Yeah, I know. Listen here, man. Hey, I just want that to be proof that I am verbally abused in my workplace. Someone contact the HR department. Anyway, moving on to tonight's show. Get back to our guest. Our guest, codenamed Joe. He is someone that I've been following on LinkedIn for a while. He puts out amazing content for compliance and safety stuff, and that is one thing that I absolutely love. Last week, we had another safety guy on, Rob Carpenter, which I think Joe knows him as well, and just really wanted to bring him on the show and talk to our guest. Hopefully some of these carriers out here are listening and, get some advice for him and let him put out some information to y'all to better understand their side of everything in this industry. So without further ado, oh, what the heck here? Sorry.
Wow, I'm impressed with that. That's hilarious. Oh gosh,
man,
I felt like I just entered the Matrix here. That's crazy. That's awesome. Yeah, take the red pill, everyone.
Yeah.
Hey, you covered a little bit about the Girl Scouts there. I got to tell you, my boys were in Boy Scouts, and cookies always beat popcorn 100% of the time. So
I agree with you. Like the Boy Scouts got the shit into that stick for real.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We the big old bags of popcorn we had, left over. The cookies, the Girl Scouts just blew out their cookies every year. It's crazy. So
I know, dude. I think that's one season that everybody waits for. There's some people wait for spring and fall and winter, and some people wait for Girl Scout cookie season.
I don't know anybody that waits for Boy Scout popcorn season.
Oh my God! Oh, I know you're right, man. Well, yeah, Joe, if you would, when you get a chance, introduce yourself. Just give a little snippet of your background or however much of your background you want, and
sure.
We'll roll into to talking and let you kind of take over, and we'll ask questions and keep the convo going.
Yeah, there's no secrecy here with anyone really. As I was trying to say, DOT CSA isn't about me; it's about several other entities. I happen to be the youngest one out of those group, but I'm up there in age myself. I spent several years within the US DOT FMCSA, learned a lot, had the chance to do a lot of things, worked in various positions for people, looking at all sorts of things from money to programs to enforcement to rulemaking. So, I was a jack of all trades and a master of none, and I really emulate the work of the experts within the agency that really put together programs. And the one thing that I had the chance to do is really read their work and follow their work and be enamored by legislation and rules that get put forward. A lot of folks don't realize that within state and federal governments, whenever these rules are being proposed, there's arguments within these government agencies on how some things aren't right. There's vivid arguments. Now, they don't get professional to where people are throwing chairs, but there's people within these government agencies at the state and federal that are disagreeing with how rules will affect the industry and vividly with each other. And I say that because many times there's this idea that, the DOT's after me, and I got to tell you, it's not. There's lots of former truckers, people that used to manage trucking companies within state and federal DOTs. They just decided to change careers and try to parlay their specialized experience in transportation into a government career. I can't tell you how many state DOT inspectors I've met that used to be mechanics or used to work for trucking companies. Many of them eventually go into commercial vehicle enforcement, to where they get to ride a patrol car, and they're quasi law enforcement. So it's not an us versus them mentality. I myself grew up in a family of truck drivers. Cab overs were strewn in front of my front yard and backyard as a kid. I spent my summers waiting with my dad at grain elevators, on the South. And, I understand that world. So, and I think that gave me the passion to get into this career and do a little bit better than most people in understanding the challenges of trucking. And I say this because I know I've had a lot of chances to do what I know and learn what I know, but I got to go back. There's a little thing that I wrote under my name here, and that's where I say everyone can be DOT. The rules are actually not difficult. Now, you don't need to know what I know and spend all the years that I spent to know it, but to specialize in the position of what you do, yeah, they're achievable. But first, you need to understand how the system works. And the one thing I'm going to say unequivocally, unabashedly, to everyone out there that's selling products and services, there's no such thing as DOT scores. There's no such thing as CSA points. Now, I don't care what trees I'm shaking. I don't care what products or advertising has been sold on this. I don't care. There's just no concept of that. Now, the Safety Measurement System Methodology Guide that's accessible has 76 pages, and if you read it from top to bottom, there's no reference to DOT scores. There's percentile thresholds, there's weighted rate percentiles, there's values. And let me tell you why that's a little bit differently. There's some states that have a very strong program for intervention, where a motor carrier gets stopped, where a motor carrier may be visited by the state. Some states don't have those same level of resources. So if you look at a motor carrier in one state versus another, you can't say that motor carrier scores are better than that other motor carrier scores. And you shouldn't be selling a product or service that says, I'm going to make your scores look better, because that's not the way it works. The way the system was designed, it was designed for the motor carrier to track where the prioritization is occurring, for how the roadside officers intervene on inspections, and how they assign DOT violations, and what type of impact a recordable accident may have on their performance. Because there's measures of intervention that are measured through algorithms, mathematical formulas, to say the least. And in an industry of 2.5 million plus motor carriers, and this is data that was published back a while ago, so it's probably bigger than that now, there needs to be a system to be able to intervene with people. There's just not enough resources to visit 2.5 million entities, or have an impact with 500 or 1,000 of them that may be active in one day. It's just impossible. So I just want to stress that you have to understand the system first, because if you don't understand the system, then you're not going to understand the nature of your career. Now, just real quickly to cap that off, why is that important for a driver? Well, I got to tell you, it's 1,000 times important for a driver, because I talk to motor carriers all the time and drivers all the time, and they're being weighed by all those inspection violations that they may be a part of. They're being weighed by all those crashes they may be a part of. And a lot of that data sometimes is inaccurate. There's a motor carrier I'm dealing with right now that has 7 accidents, recordable accidents that's impacting their accident basic under safety measurement system. 7 accidents. 5 of those 7 can be contested as non-preventable, meaning that if once those 5 get removed, that value under that accident basic goes down 100% down. So what does that mean for that driver? That means that that driver that may take that job is going to be carrying the weight of how impactful that accident is to their next career. And that's a lot of load for drivers that are trying to get a better job, trying to get into a better position, trying to get a better thing. There's some DOT inspections that are incorrectly done. I talked to a driver the other day that was dealing with an accident, and the accident was considered a recordable accident because there was a fatality involved while somebody hit his vehicle while it was parked in the driveway of a house where he was sleeping at. Somehow that accident report made it onto his motor carrier's safety measurement system profile. And now the motor carrier doesn't understand how the safety measurement system works. So now it's negatively impacting the driver's career.
So hey, Joe.
Anyways, I'm talking a tangent, but I'm kind of passionate. You can tell. So.
No, I'm sorry. I only cut you off because I don't want you to move on from this specific thing you're talking about these accidents. And, the one carrier you're working with, how they have 5 on them that they could contest. And the example of the second driver that the truck was hit while it was parked in front of their house. Like, why do you think that carriers don't contest those? Is it because they don't know how, or even if they do know how, is that like
no? It's my experience. It's my belief that it's not that they don't know how. It's just that they just don't know to even start. To them, it goes back to what I said. They don't understand the difference between laws and regulations, and they don't understand how a regulation doesn't apply when there's no commerce involved. If you look at the FMCSRs, 99% of them apply only when commerce is being conducted. Now, this guy was off duty. He was parked in a private property. There's no commerce involved at all, period. So the nature of that event shouldn't even be impacting that safety measurement system profile, but somehow this data comes on, and it's not a fault of the DOT. It's the reality that the motor carrier has a responsibility to look at that data every month as it gets uploaded. And that's the one thing is coming into a regulated industry. The motor carrier and the driver, to many extent, is compelled to monitor their data. The safety measurement system isn't just there to just be a report card. It's there for the motor carrier to say, this data is correct. I may not like that it's a bad inspection, but it's correct data, and I'm responsible to try to get it corrected when it's not corrected. Or even if I disagree with it, then at least there's a matter of record that I've sent up the chain to say I disagree with it. Because a lot of motor carriers, they may challenge a DOT inspection, and that may not be successful, but at least it's a matter of record that they're challenging it. So when it hits the fan and there's some scrutiny involved, at least they are saying, look, I made an issue out of this, and this is why. The same thing with not only that, but with adjudicated citations. That's a major thing. Right now, if a driver gets a speeding violation and a DOT inspection is done, the typical FMCSR DOT regulation that gets addressed in that DOT inspection is 392.2, which is considered a violation of state and local laws. So there's an associated civil citation for that that is tied to that FMCSR violation. Well, what happens once a driver gets that thrown out in court? Okay, what happens to that FMCSR citation? So there is a matter of law there that needs to be applied. So in many of those situations, depending on how that individual state that handled that citation handles it, there's different processes and procedures. The driver may have an opportunity to say, hey, look, the judge threw out the civil side. What can you do about the FMCSR DOT side? It's not simple. Every state's different, so we have to respect the laws of every state. So all I'm trying to say is many times it's my belief that people just don't know that they need to do this. And then when they feel that they got to do something, where do they start? It's actually very simple. And that's what we aim to do with DOT CSA. We can't say we're a nonprofit. We're not making money off of this. There's no monetization involved. We're not charging anyone for anything, really. But we are considering on building a nonprofit model to help the industry with just simply training. Because I go back to the whole thing. There's no such thing as DOT scores. There's no such thing as CSA points.
So I want to chime in, Joe, and I'll tell you that in a way, I disagree with you saying that they just don't do it. I agree with part of it, but I will tell you that in my experience, having the Facebook group I have, it's got, 44,000 some odd people in it, and most of them are carriers. And I'll tell you, I get posts in there all the time about people saying, hey, this is on my, on the FMCSA website, or this showed up on this report, or this, how do I get rid of that? How do I deal with that? Who do I contact? What process do I go through? And so I think that it is in a way a lack of information. And here's the counterpart to that is, for a lot of the people, for the ones that have the information, a majority of them, they're fucking greedy with it. They want $300 or $400 or $500.
Oh, that's where I'm going with it. Oh, yeah.
To teach you how to deal with it yourself.
Yeah.
Some of them will help you do it, but I think that that's a big problem too. And I don't hate on anyone's hustle. Like if you find something that you see there's a need for and you're good at, you can charge money. Hey, do you? But it seems that everybody does that. Like there's no real website, there's no government association or anything that you can just go to a website or go talk to someone and say, hey, this is my issue. Can you help me figure that out? And I really think that is the huge hurdle that we need to find a way to get over.
Well, let me say that I agree with you in saying that. You're right. I'm not trying to say that people just are ignorant. That's not what I'm trying to get at. They know they have to do something. They just don't know where to start. And I'm going to tell you right now, sometimes let's be frank. Many of us just don't want to mess with it, and because we think that government processes are too difficult. And I'll give you one example. There's someone out there in the industry with a last name that is representative of a farm animal. Okay, that charges $300 for a DOT MCS 150 application, and it just punches me in the gut. It pisses me the hell off that he's charging $300 something for that. They're charging $500 for an OP1 form for MC Authority, and that punches me in the gut. I get that people should be paid for their labor. I totally get that. But when you have a process and a procedure that you can do it down within 15 minutes, and you're taking someone's money for $300 to $500 a pop for 15 minutes of work, that punches me in the gut. The other side of the coin is when it comes to data challenges, oh my gosh, or paperwork, the portals to do that are surprisingly simple. There's state and federal requirements to make these processes down to what would be considered a very low grade of grade school education for anyone to do. So what I'm trying to tell you is people in general think, oh, it's too complicated for me to even start. And if I started, I'm going to get confused and lost. So I don't want to pay for an MCS 150. I don't want to take the time for an MCS 150. I'd rather pay someone for it. I don't want to take the time for an RDR, which is a data challenge. I'll just pay someone else for it. But if they take the time to get in, oh my gosh, those portals are super simple.
You want to know what my favorite one is, Joe? Is I know it's kind of in a way irrelevant, but is the people that charge to help people do their IFTA. Like it's, I mean, so complicated. It's like, man, if you have a simple dispatch system, like you can literally do this in a few clicks of the button. And I have seen astronomical amounts for people to file a simple IFTA report. And it's like, man, that is like probably one of the easiest things to do as far as like regulations and stuff that you have to follow in this industry. But
this motor carrier a few months ago called me just to update his DOT number, help him update it. He really thought it was a complicated process. And I said, well, sure, I'll help you out. And it took probably about 15, 20 minutes. And I even posted about it on LinkedIn. And he goes, okay, well, how much do you want to pay me? And I go, well, I mean, how much you want me to pay you? And I go, well, I said, I'm just helping you out. And he goes, well, somebody was trying to charge me $300 for this.
Yeah.
And, so, do I want to, would I like to have made $300 for something? Yeah, I do. But I'm too much of a person that wants to earn that 300 and not just take it from somebody, because that's a guy that needs to take his family to dinner.
Yeah. And I'll say to that, Joe, that also on, the way you are, obviously I know how you are because we've talked, but to the audience, something that I say a lot and that my dad, told me is, what good is having knowledge if you don't share it, which is, what we were touching on earlier. And I think that also is something that's lacking in this industry. Like people are afraid to share all of their knowledge. They give you a little bit, just a little taste, but if you want more, then you got to give them something for it. And before we move on, I want to get back on the thing of what we're really talking about here. That's updating thing, and I guess you say challenging things that are on your report. I also feel that a lot of these carriers out there are afraid to approach DOT, FMCSA about some of these things.
My gosh.
For two reasons. Well, for two reasons is because everybody knows how any government entity is. Like everyone just does not like the government or any agency tied with them, and also that they think that if I go and complain about this, is there some internal system where they're going to make a note and be like, Bob and Jim's truck carrier called bitching and complaining. We're going to give them a DOT inspection every time we see them. And also, I'm going to use an example with this one is they probably don't think they're going to do shit about it. Because look at all the fraud and the scam. And even though I know that's something different, look at how, how much of that is going on right now. And the government, DOT, FMCSA, whoever you want to say, they're doing nothing about it. So why would people think if you're not going to help, the industry as a whole deal with the situation, why are you going to help little old me get something removed off my DOT or MC number or my report or whatever it is? So I feel that's another hurdle too, man. And I think that's a big reason that you also wanted to come on the show is to try to break that barrier of that field as well.
Yeah. Well, there's a ton of misperceptions about anybody wanting to, why isn't this agency doing something about it? And I go back to one thing, and that's the representation by your constituents. Many people don't realize that your congressional constituents in your states that represent you in Congress do not allow government agencies to grow to respond to the problems that Americans are facing. If unequivocally 100%, many times government agencies across the board, DOT included, want to address a problem, but their resources are stretched thin. I go back to the whole thing about 2.5 million registered motor carriers on the last census report that came out years ago, and that's probably up to 3.5, 4 million now. So you look at there's reports. Just type in state of whatever, state of New Jersey personnel, DOT personnel, state of Wisconsin DOT personnel, state FMCSA personnel. It gives you you can find out how many persons are within a government agency, and then look at how big the industry is, and then reasonably ask yourself, all right, I want them to do this, but can they really do that with the amount of resources they have? And why do they have those amount of resources? Because my constituents are not allowing them to expand. Okay. A lot of that goes, I would say a huge amount of that goes back to the constituents that don't allow government programs to expand to get these things. So I'm going to toss it back to the politicians. And for every government agency, there's people in state and federal DOTs that want to do a lot more, but they're stretched thin. So and then not only that, but if anyone can look at the filings that are done publicly for DOT numbers and MC numbers, I think they're available on safersys.web, and oh my gosh, there's in some states there's almost 150, 200 filings every week on new entities. Okay, so yeah. Who's gonna keep up with that pace? How can you reasonably tell any organization you're not doing enough when the industry is growing that much? So I challenge anyone that's telling the government to do more. I challenge them to understand why government isn't doing more. And then I go back to the other side of the coin. Here is your CDL, your MCS 150 is your contract with the public. Nobody twisting an arm to put you in a position to say, to tell you that these are the set of rules you have to comply with. And I have to say that because there's a million truck drivers that are very professional. I met them at the Mid-America Truck Show. These guys carry a pocketbook, and they're clean cut, and these guys know 1,000 times more than I could ever hope for, and they're working by the rules. And then I got some guys that are pushing the envelope, and I understand that, no problems. And then there's those other people that just, they're just the cowboys, and I get into those are the ones I was into literal arguments all the time about the government this, government that. And I said, look, nobody twisted your arm to get into trucking. You decided to hold a CDL, and I would always kind of tone down the conversation by saying, you signed that CDL application or you signed that MCS 150. You did it. No, there's your signature. So I couldn't get past some people to do that. Now, would I like to be a truck driver myself? I grew up in a truck driving family. I have the respect of truck drivers 1,000 times over. I love truck drivers, but I will never put myself in the shoes of a truck driver and understand the life of a truck driver. I think you have to be a truck driver to really contemplate the trials and tribulations of a truck driver. So I have a lot of respect. And every time I deal with a truck driver, I give them every room of doubt all the time to understand their situation. Before any type of work that I applied for intervention or enforcement in my past career. I was never the type to chew bubblegum and take names. I know that there's people out there that are like that in every organization, not just law enforcement. So I know that there's those elements in government and in private industry that act bad or do bad things, but what you guys also don't see is they get called out, they get counseled, they get downgraded, they don't go for promotion. There's profiles and records built up on them. There's a lot of corrective action. If anyone follows the U.S. DOT Office of Inspector General, they're always doing investigations on their own people that may be, doing things unauthorized or illegally. So there's bad apples in every industry. In other words,
so I want to say that you absolutely don't have to be a truck driver to put yourself in a truck driver's shoes. All you got to do is go and look at the article that Timothy Dooner posted today about the RVer who got mad because all the truck drivers jumped on him. But I don't know if y'all saw that. It was an article. Some RVer he got his ass handed to him in a truck stop because he was doing something. I can't remember what it was, but going against the unspoken rules of trucking, and he got upset about it. And if someone wrote an article, I think that's how crazy it is. But I will agree with you about that. Obviously there are several professions that you can't talk about if you've been in them. Military, law enforcement, first responder, of course. And I also agree with you on being a truck driver. I spent just over a decade out there myself. I've been to every part of this country. I've been local, and I'll tell you, even both of those things are different. Running OTR and running local, there's challenges in both. When it comes to getting sleep, being safe, time away from your family, the things that you deal with in the various environments, for how long you deal with them. So it is definitely something that I kind of think that, and this is from my experience, that some people in the DOT realm, or the enforcement realm, I'll say that the enforcement realm when it comes to carriers, they think that because they work around trucks and they know rules and regulations and laws, and they climb up and in a truck and talk to drivers all day, that they have an understanding, and they don't give any leniency. They don't give any on that leash. And, they put out standards and expectations for what they themselves think they would be doing. And, it's like you have no business do that. I respect you and your authority and your knowledge of the rules and regulations, the laws, the policies, whatever you want to say. But, I think that, the coin has to be flipped as well, and them show some understanding that they don't fully understand what the carriers go through out there. So, and I think that obviously is really a focal point of this conversation, is the divide between the enforcers of the regulations and the ones that have to abide by them. And I want to touch back on what you were talking about government agencies, and about an argument that had went on in my group. Now, of course, this only revolved around rates, because that's the number one thing on drivers' minds right now. But there was a thing called, the industry needs to be regulated again, because it was deregulated in the 80s, and all these things changed and all that stuff. And this one guy posted an article from an old head truck driver that spoke on the issue, saying, hey, you think it only has to do with rates. But in conclusion, his basic thing was saying is, when in the history of any government has the government being in full control of something ever actually worked out for everybody involved? And so I see your point there, with these people higher up in charge of these agencies trying to control it and keep them small. And I guess in a way you can appreciate that, but also you have to be able to have the man and woman power out there to be able to address issues, and as you said, there are millions of carriers out there. And what you had said about looking up just that one state, about several hundred new MCs are applied for a day. We actually had Jason Rebine on the show a few weeks ago, and he pulled it up on the show for across the country. And I think just in a span of a week, there was like 10,000 MC numbers across the United States for carriers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I was about to jump into that. He said like 500 a day that are being registered. Joe, I got to ask you, brother, what's your experience with these double brokers, these cats that come in with like one truck, immediately getting out of service shit, like day 2, they get all these freight guard reports within like a month. Like, what do you tell those cats?
Okay, well, first of all, I want to dispel one myth that it just kind of, I always kind of laugh at this, but it's a reality. It is very possible for a new mom and pop motor carrier, good good trucking company, good driver, good owner, to go 2, 3, 4, even 5 years without a DOT inspection. Period.
I am so glad you brought that up. Oh man, keep preaching, brother. Keep preaching.
I mean, I can't count how many times I used to look at the data and like, wow, they've had an MCS 150 for about 3 years now, and there's no inspection on record. And yes, sure enough, no inspection on record, no accident, nothing. So when I hear about motor carriers being denied business opportunities because of that, and other people not believing them, thinking that there's some bad entity, it's a reality that punches me in the gut, because there's a lot of great trucking companies out there that would love the business. So I want to throw that out there. And it's not just a small thing. No, this is in the thousands, guys. This is not just a small subset, because DOT resources for inspections are very different in every state. There's some states that have corridors where they're going to find a speck of fly shit in a bowl of cereal. And there's other states where you can go for and there's other states where you're going to go for months without seeing a commercial vehicle enforcement officer on the road. So if you're a motor carrier domiciled in that one state, you're never going to get an inspection. So I want to throw that out there.
I'm glad. Okay. I'm really glad that you touched on that. And I want to say that, over here, as a broker, that is one of the things that we look at. And I am not in any way saying that it is not a good tool and a parameter for us as brokers to look at. But I will say, to touch on what I said a minute ago about putting yourself in someone's shoes that you don't fucking know about. And I'm telling you, as someone that was a driver, I could count on one hand the times that I was ever pulled over or pulled in for an inspection. Now, I used to go get inspections all the time because companies used to pay you for that stuff back in the day. But I spent 10 years out there, man. And I'm telling you, maybe 5 times, maybe 6 was I ever pulled over and given an inspection. And I was just one driver. I've got I'm gonna say a friend, an associate that I know. His company's been in business for 5 years, and I think he's had 2 inspections. And it's just because he runs a very small area, like a 500-mile radius, and most of it's back roads. And so, like, he never ever encounters. I mean, he even says he hardly ever sees police. Period. What he does, where he goes, and he's now facing this, even though he's been in business for several year and has no freight guards or anything. That one thing, that lack of inspections, is what gets him. And I for one have said that even over here, like, man, like, hey, that doesn't mean anything. Like, call them, check all their other information. Like, if this is the only thing holding you back from doing business, then you're fucking 2 people. You're screwing yourself as the broker or the shipper by not doing business with this person, and you're screwing the carrier by not allowing them to do business with you and make the money that they need. So, man, I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, and then there's other industries too that have very little interaction with roadside DOT enforcement or scale houses. And I'm going to be very straightforward with you. If you're at a scale house and you see a cattle hauler coming in with a, fully loaded, and you see a bunch of shit water dripping off that trailer, you're not going to stop them. Let's just be real, guys. Come on, okay? You're gonna go for the next truck. So that's an industry that doesn't have a lot of data. Car haulers with low-lying trailers don't get stopped often because the facilities are very difficult to stop them. There's other industries like motor coach companies as well, because what are you going to do with passengers? So you have a lot of situations and business models that don't get a lot of inspections by the sheer nature of the type of work they do. Then there's also situations where some officers may be very local, and they know that local trucking company. So I've been to some scale houses in a couple states where the officers, they have a pretty good rapport with the local guys, and they're not letting them off, but but they're not looking for the stuff that they already know. They're looking for the other people that they already know. So that, so before you know it, 6 months, a year comes along and, they don't get stopped. So there's lots of reasons for someone not to get a DOT inspection, that we've seen. In one particular county that I visited in the South, this one local trucking company had 350 DOT inspections over a 2-year period. Okay. They were coal haulers. They didn't really leave but 2 states. They had more inspections than an over-the-road trucking company with 300 drivers. So, so throw that out there. How does that happen? I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is not every situation is the same. So as far as now, I do get the idea that that companies with less data, going back to your question about determining how valid, how real, how authentic someone is. Yeah, that the bad guys know this, so they prey on that lack of knowledge, and they focus on those areas where they can hide. So the challenge here is this. The challenge here is the government resources to reach out and touch someone. I gotta believe that if there was an opportunity to make contact somehow in this day and age, it's impossible to do physical contact. But we have, if we can find where weapons of mass destruction were in some bunker out in Iraq through AI and all those things, I gotta believe that our resources can be focused to try to figure out on a mass scale how real some entity is, and then try to work with private organizations to try to fulfill that. So I think there's more and more government outreach to work with private organizations to figure out how valid the other side of the coin is. The oncoming, all these numbers you see applying, that's what I'm trying to get at, because there's just too many of them coming on board. So one of the things that we're trying to do in our group is trying to figure out how to talk to other entities out there that already have data analysis platforms, AI components. We've reached out to several already that have ways to look at this from an IT perspective, because there are existing infrastructure programs, data API systems and so forth out there to already address this. So I think this is a prime opportunity for someone to capitalize in that field and actually verify, validate, and vet somebody. But the challenge again is the interaction, the lack of interaction. I'll give you one idea of interaction. Here is for new entrant motor carriers. They're required to have a safety audit within 18 months. Okay. Does that happen within 18 months? Well, again, there's challenges of government resources. But that new entrant audit is very important because someone gets to do a hands-on site visit of records, equipment, shaking the hands, looking at people, looking at physical property. But then when you look at brokers and other types of commercial entities that are moving freight, you don't really have the resources to go out and visit all those numbers. But then I get to the point of data analysis. And also existing things like the FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Information Network. Right now, the Patriot Act says that if you take out $5,000 or more from your bank, it's going to be reported to the Internal Revenue Service somehow. There's going to be some record of it somehow. Okay, so and somebody has to do what's called a report, and so some number goes out there saying that John Smith took out $5,000. I don't understand why that type of oversight has been brought into the brokering, freight forwarding, logistics community, because many of these entities we all know are operating overseas, and where is that money going to? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay. So what many folks need to understand is rules of safety and rules of commerce are different. if someone had the chance to talk, this is where I wish you guys would do that. If you bring an attorney onto the show to explain to the industry, to your audience, what are the challenges of commerce versus how different the challenges are to safety. There's hurdles, there's obstacles that prevent many government resources from saying we're going to forbid businesses to get into business for whatever reason of commerce, more than there are for reasons of safety. The act of deregulation itself open up the floodgates, and it makes it difficult for any government agency to impose rules to bottleneck business. If you guys try to understand what I mean by that, okay? Because business, the way brokers and the way freight forwarders and 3PLs and all those entities work is they're more working on the side of commerce than they are on the side of safety. And that's where resources are focused right now. They're focused on safety and what's happening out there on the roads. Are the trucks safe? Are the drivers safe? Are companies running DOT programs? That's where the money is focused. And there's not a lot of resources to focus on the commercial side where we cover transactions. Somebody on LinkedIn recently raised something about load detention. Okay. Load detention is a huge thing, but now it's going to be a slippery slope if you go into a private business and tell a private business how to run their business because they're on private property. So safety is different because it's on public roads. It's in the public domain. There's more oversight that can be emphasized on who should be doing what versus on private property. And if you go into the area of load detention, then what's causing a shipper, what's causing a broker to impact detention times that impact a driver's ability to meet their hours of service obligations.
Yes.
And so, so that's where I'm going with that. So you look at how safety works. Well, safety works for public roads. But now if someone can build a case for how a private business's internal operations on private property are impacting safety on public roads, then you see how attorneys can build a case for creating more legislation, more regulations that governs how a private business runs. But do you really want to go down that slippery slope? Now we have the government that may say, okay, well, if that's the case, then what else is a business doing privately?
So, hey, but before you move on from this specific thing, Joe, we actually, and it may have been my post you saw because we talked about this last night on the show as our for our little news
exactly.
segment.
Yeah.
And you're watching. So I want to ask you, man, because I do understand the argument. Like I can see the validation behind, detention. It takes time away from the driver. And then, again, as someone who drove, I get it, man. Like that clock that you watch every day, even when, not when you ran log books, because who really gave a shit when, but anyway, when you watch that clock dwindle down, and you got somewhere to be, I agree that it could make a driver do things, that they normally wouldn't do to, try to reach a certain point, because I know myself, even as a driver, I start my day and it's like, all right, I got to make sure that I make it to at least here so I can get this delivered or get this picked up or whatever. And so my question to you is do you agree with that? Do you see the argument there that, that is something that needs to be addressed and aside from the commerce private business thing, just that specific thing, can you see a relation between those two things?
I do see a relation, and I think the way to address it is because money always talks. Okay.
Yeah.
Money always talks, but I go back to the challenge. Well, if you're going to address it, then who's going to monitor it and control it? If it's difficult to monitor the quality of a new of a new DOT number, whether it's filed for a motor carrier or a broker, and there's just not enough resources going on right now, who's going to monitor that, Rob? Sorry, Pedro. Who's going to monitor that?
Of course, the carriers are.
It's wishful thinking to say, yeah, that would work, but then again, where's the infrastructure to support it?
That is a very, very good point, man. Dang, Joe, like this whole safety versus commerce thing that you're talking about, like I never would have thought about it from those two perspectives. You know, I mean, what's easier to do and what's not, or what's easier to
let,
regulate.
let, let me tell you where I think it should be addressed. Uh, and as much as we complain about government is not the answer to everything. There's two things that make the industry run. Okay, and if someone just says it's government, I'm going to slap them because that's not the reality. It's government and the insurance industry.
Oh God.
Okay. The insurance industry makes things happen. Without the insurance industry, government wouldn't be around. Without the nuclear verdicts we're all experiencing, you wouldn't see many of these regulations. So many people may wag the finger at state and federal DOT bodies. They wouldn't exist if nuclear verdicts wouldn't exist, or all these.
So what Joe is saying is that we need to quit attacking FMCSA and DOT, and we need to go after these damn insurance companies. That completely makes sense, man. You know,
well, not necessarily the insurance companies. It's the lawyers that are suing the insurance companies.
Oh, so attorneys, hey, look, we're just narrowing this down. We are getting our direct target now. When we got up here, I'm a call Matt Loeffler, and we're gonna have a long discussion. And I don't know if you know Matt. I'm gonna have a talk.
Yeah, I know that name is familiar. So what I'm trying to get at is if I were God, I would say I would tell the insurance companies that are managing risk for these entities that are causing these load detentions that if you put a driver in the situation and the investigation shows that your business practices caused the driver to be in a fatigue driving situation and a fatality is caused, then we're going to drop you like a hot potato, or we're going to charge you astronomical insurance rates.
Just like the law, I don't know if it's nationwide, but I know they have it here in Texas that any place that serves alcohol, if you overserve someone and they leave your establishment and injure someone, or gosh forbid, take someone's life, and they can trace that person back to your establishment as the last place they were, then the establishment can be held liable civilly and be fined and have their business license and everything taken. And so that's
where I'm going, Pedro.
Huh?
That's exactly where it needs to be done right there. The problem would be resolved. I mean, it's not going to be resolved overnight, but it's going to change fast. Watch detention rates go down very fast because insurance rates are going to go through the roof.
Yeah, I agree. I could see that really making the effect. And I'll say in the article we talked on last night, that now thinking about it, well, if I think about it in this perspective, it doesn't kind of irritate me so much. But was this carrier saying, oh, we charge $400 an hour and hit them where it hurts in the pocketbook? But of course they were really more talking to the brokers, I think. But I could see this being it, because honestly, money talks. I mean, it doesn't matter what situation in life or part of life we're talking about, whether it's business or personal. I mean, if you're talking about giving me money, I'm all about it. I'm all ears. Let's do what we got to do. If you're talking about taking money away from me, I'm all ears. Let's do what we got to do.
Yeah, we're being pushed here to look at. Many of us think about the government as a way to resolve our problems, but it's time to have a paradigm shift and look at how the private industry can support these problems. I have to throw out some respect to organizations like promoted on LinkedIn, like Dell Prax with Freight Validate. And I'm not here to throw his product out, but I'm here to show how private industry can try to solve some of these problems. There's also the insurance company called Assured Partners, you name it. You've had some people on the show that present solutions. Private industry knows how to solve these problems. The Transportation Intermediaries Association, I haven't been a part of them, but I've been following them on LinkedIn. They have a really great conference where they talk about this problem with double brokering. And they have some real world solutions that are presented. So let's stop looking at government for solutions. Everyone knows about the movie Oppenheimer, okay? And the reason I bring Oppenheimer up is the Department of Defense was, if you look at the history of Oppenheimer, the Department of Defense was given a phenomenal task to build, the atomic bomb. And you're not going to tell me that a bunch of guys wearing green camouflage were going to do it on their own. They realized that they were definitely not going to be able to take on that project. But back in the 40s and 50s, they started to bring in private industry. And if you look at how the atomic bomb was created, how it came together over several national labs across the country, how several private organizations, private companies came to work with the federal government for a solution. They advanced a nuclear weapons program that made America the pinnacle of American power across the world. So private industry is the solution. Talking like this, you folks bringing about topics, the people on the show present solutions. There just needs to be more of a corral to point people in the right direction to address these issues, because government isn't the only solution. We're in 2023, and as much as I don't like the whole Terminator type approach for AI and autonomous technology, the fact of the matter is we're streaming now on LinkedIn because there's AI in the works right now that allows us to do this.
Yeah, and the irony of it is, with this, what you're just speaking about is this sector of the government, I guess, motor carrier enforcement and broker enforcement and all that stuff. It is one part of it, the government, that there are no private contractors on board, or companies, out there helping to fix these problems. And the ones that are, there's not enough of, and I think this is the biggest problem in our industry. I feel, amongst everything else, this is the biggest issue. What I'm about to say, there is no brotherhood or camaraderie or partnership to the fullest in this industry. And maybe you get a few people here and there together and say, oh, let's do this. And they put together an association, but then Jimmy and Ricky down the street say, oh no, that association sucks. They're not doing it the way I would. And then they go do it. And then versus, those two coming together and saying, hey, let's provide a solution for said issue or issues. They just go about their own way and end up honestly attacking the same thing, but kind of, putting both north sides of a magnet together, and now I'm gonna say making the problem worse, but not really solving any solutions. And so I see your point, man. I agree. I think that this is.
Rob, let me mention one organization that I think has changed a lot since I started. And it used to be top heavy with law enforcement, but now in 2023 they have a lot of regular guys in there that I like, because we need regular guys in it. And that's the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, CVSA. Everyone has heard of them. Everyone knows who they are. CVSA, they're not a government organization, but they have a lot of pull with how drivers are given DOT inspections and how drivers are treated. They're an amazing collective now of law enforcement, of government, state agencies, and of drivers and of companies, but participation is key. So what happens now is drivers kind of they rely on other people to participate for them, and I don't think that that's the way it should be. I think drivers should look at these organizations and track them more personally. And look at what's going on, especially with the CVSA, because CVSA promulgates these procedures, and it's almost like a product and a service. Like, everyone knows that you can get a Big Mac or a Whataburger or whatever in Florida, and it's going to taste the same as one in Texas or one in Alabama. And that's what CVSA does. I'm not comparing it to a burger, but they created an inspection process and a procedure that can be done in Florida and done in Alaska, and it's going to be done the same way. So you promote these consistent standards of the inspection process, where a driver doesn't have to feel like it's different everywhere. So participation in CVSA, folks, if anyone is here listening, look at their site, follow their news more and more, participate if you can. If you're working with a trucking company, tell them to participate with that. You don't need to be a part of a large organization to participate with CVSA. I don't know why people pay dues to a large organization thinking they're gonna turn turn water into wine for them. Do it yourself. That's what I'm trying to do with DOT CSA. I'm trying to build a collective of subject matter professionals everywhere to be a part of this, and everyone has an equal voice to learn from each other. And I don't want to approach it the way that you see the large entities approach it, where someone just pays into something and they don't know what happens with their dues. We want to have free courses, free training materials, free as much as possible. And then for those types of situations where there's services provided, we're going to bring in people that have been vetted by others to help people get out of situations, like you talked about some attorney there that can help people out of situations. But that's here what I really want to promote with DOT CSA. With DOT CSA is awareness that everyone can be DOT.
Yes, yes, they can, and I agree with that, man. I honestly do. You know, there's a spot for all the carriers, you know, to get in where they fit in and try to do a little bit and help a little bit, you know, not just themselves but the industry. And I unfortunately want to say that I gotta hop off here so I can go eat my supper because it's cold and my wife needs to go to bed here soon. But also I don't want Joe to fucking say everything he's got to say in one show, because I know he will. And because I want to have you back on, man. Like Hunter and I have been talking about having you on as one of our repeat guests. Ever since we started the show, I've been trying to get you on here and continuously have you on. So, which honestly, I know you got tons and tons of content, man, with the decades and decades you've been around the industry and the things that you've done. But I do got to jump out. Do you want to say?
Just want to say one thing, Robert, real quick.
Yeah, bro.
Just one thing. Two things. Drivers, if you don't know 49 CFR Part 383.111 and .113, and if you don't know how to defend your skills and experience under those sets of regulations, then you shouldn't be driving a truck, because when it hits the fan, that's what you're going to be scrutinized with, those two regulations for your skills. 100% be able to back your skills and experience with those two sets of regulations, and not just verbally, but be able to put it down in writing based upon your experience, your skills, whatever you've done in your career. So again, 49 CFR Part 383.111 and .113, motor carriers, safety management controls are key. The government is never going to give you specific things on what you need to do, but safety management controls is listed under 49 CFR Part 385. It means the systems, policies, procedures, and practices in place to show that you have standards for safety. You can't just expect the government to walk in and try to look at a piece of paper. They're going to ask you, show me how you manage things. And if you can say this is my safety management controls, and you're going to be in a much better situation to lead to a favorable outcome in your investigation. And last but not least, again, I don't care how many trees I shake or business foundations I shake, there's no such things as DOT scores or CSA points. Ask me how. I'm not going to charge you. There's no charge for this. I'll direct you to the free places.
We are going to ask you how when we have you on next. Yeah, no, because I'm honestly, ever since you said that, like, I want to know that, because I was driving when CSA came out, man, and I'll tell you, it shook a lot of people or a lot of carriers, man. And I mean, there's still I obviously still have a misconception about it, and I try to stay, you know, up on as much, you know, driver stuff as I can. But we're going to have you talk about that. And Hunter, I want to say, dude, hey, listening to Joe like spit off these things like he's a pastor spitting off Bible verses. Dude, you're Father Freight. Joe is going to be Father Safety.
There we go. He's a part of the church. He's a part of the church.
The church of
Hey,
Legis-
can I get an amen?
Yeah.
The deacon of DOT, man.
Oh man, Hunter, do you want to say anything before we go to our last sponsor break and then chunk the deuces for the night?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Joe, thank you so much for being on, brother. I know I didn't say a lot, but as most of these shows, I do. I'm just soaking it up. I definitely look forward to having you back on, man. And thank you for being here, brother.
Here I am, and also you folks just let me know when this is going to happen. I have a modest following, and I'll do my best to promote your content as well to get more people to tune in and get them educated. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I mean, we with some of the other folks that we've had on the show with large followings, Jeff Dickinson, Michael, is it Vincent? I think it is. We sent them stuff and they promoted on their channel. I just didn't send anything to you, because of some of the conversation we have. I didn't want to put you in an uncomfortable spot, but no, next time we will, for sure. I would love to have some of your people come on and chime in as well. And really make it a good show. Next time I want to have you on a Friday, man. Those are always the real poppin' shows. So
yeah.
But,
I want to bring on a former FMCSA program specialist that can definitely raise some eyebrows. So,
ooh, man, I love it.
Hey, y'all heard it here first.
That's what I'm saying. I heard it here first. And another thing that you heard here first is Trucking Service Solution. You guys out there on the road, you're looking for a specific service, you go to that website below. It's your location, search radius, the service you're looking for, and it'll populate some results for you and help you get the task done that you're needed to get done. Ooh, yeah. And you know what, drivers? While you're out there on the road, you're obviously going to need some killer kick-ass insurance. And Karen over at Karen and King Insurance is the lady with the plan and the knowledge to help you get squared away with all your insurance needs. Because as Joe said, the insurance companies run the country. You need to make sure that y'all are covered. Brokers, that goes for you as well. She also handles bond filings and insurance for brokers because, we need to be protected too, making sure that you are able to cover yourself in the case of an accident or any kind of issue that arises is an important thing between you staying in business and shutting down them doors. Oh my God, I have no idea what that guy has said. That is like our mystery right now, Joe. We're trying to find out what that guy is saying. Anyway, Joe, you have anything you want to say before we end the show?
Yeah, I just want to let everyone know we're not a sales entity. We're not here to sell anyone. Feel free to reach out to us, DM us with your questions. If I don't know someone, I'll find someone for you. We're here to help. You guys can see some people that have written up how I help them. So feel free to reach out. We're not money chasers.
And Joe, how can they do that? Can they just go on LinkedIn and search DOT CSA and it'll pull you guys up or what?
Yep. I have a DOT CSA group. I would like people to join, or you can reach me on my own DOT CSA profile under Joseph Minton.
Okay. Hey, I'll say, Joe, I'll get with you and get you to DM me that group, and I'm sure Hunter is would be fine with it. But we'll post that up on our pages, and I'll post it up in my Facebook group that has 44,000 flipping people in it, man. And you know, help get y'all guys some traffic over there, and inevitably, end up helping some folks out, because I know that's what you guys are about. So,
I
Hunter,
appreciate that.
you're very welcome. That's
I have
what
a
we're here
Facebook
for.
group too. So I have a Facebook group too. So I'll try to connect with you on that.
Yeah, dude, and hey, send me that info too, man. I'll join the group and chime in there, man, and add some content, and that's another big part of this show. I know a lot of other people probably have connections and stuff on there, but I think you've seen the people we have are just from so many sides of the industry. I mean, we've already hooked up Karen, the lady we're advertising now. She's hooked up with a factoring company that we've had on the show. Jessica Lopez, who's going to be on the show tomorrow. My friend of mine that I operate a truck with, he's going to reach out to her because she has connections in the oil field. So, it's all about networking. The more people we can put together that know others that you don't, I think is important. And that's how we spread the word. And that's also how we make change.
Is there
what? Oh, you said yes, sir. My bad. Whoop, brain glitch.
Also, you guys can find my DOT CSA group on Tinder. Just swipe to the left. All right, I'm just joking.
Dude, they DM Joe, and he goes, "Hey, if you don't mind me asking, what's your safety carrier rating?"
You can find that on Plenty of Fish.
Oh my God, that's so funny. All right, Hunter,
All right,
you want to go
take care, guys.
out with that beautiful bean footage?
Oh yeah. Later, boys.
All right.